Hi everybody, you're very welcome here today. I hope you can hear me. My name is Veronica Edwards. I'm teaching in Carrigallen Vocational School in County Leitrim, and in 2019 I joined the project working group for the BFireSafe at School programme. And our school was one of a number of schools countrywide that piloted the programme during 2019, 2020. I tried it out with a group, two groups actually, of transition year students. And I have to say the feedback we got was extremely positive. The students really enjoyed it, and the programme itself is very flexible to use, which was good for teachers and students. And there are a wide variety of resources and methodologies there, so the students were kept active and kept busy throughout. So what I'm hoping to do today is to give you, first of all, a brief overview of the content, and then give you a demonstration of how to register and how to use the learning management system. Okay, I think I'm ready. All right, so hopefully you can still hear me and everything's still okay. So we're going to get started here by giving you, as I said, an overview of what the programme has to offer, the content. So we're going to give you an overview of the course content and highlight how the programme can complement curricula at both junior and senior cycle. And then I'm going to demonstrate the learning management system for the programme, and this is the place where you can access all of the resources that the programme has to offer. So before we start, I just want to let you know, and Caroline has already mentioned this, that we'll be giving you an opportunity to register on the BFireSafe at School learning management system later on. So if you want an additional device or a phone or whatever you want to use, just to be able to do that. But we'll come to that a little later on. Okay, so let's get started. So I guess as teachers, we're all acutely aware of how time poor we are in terms of meeting the demands of the post-primary curriculum. Perhaps never more so in the current climate. So first we'll have a look at what this programme has to offer and how it might be incorporated into curricula at both junior and senior cycle in an efficient and meaningful way. So we don't want to see this as an add-on. It has to be something that works for us in the classroom. In terms of content, the programme is flexible to use. Okay, so I know very often in school you'd have a varied amount of time to allocate to a programme like this. It can fit whatever time schedule you have. There are 10 units in total, as you can see on the slide. 6 are suitable for use with students aged 12 years and over, and all 10 can be used with students aged 15 years or over. You can pick and choose which units you want to cover to suit your time allocation, the interest of your students, and the focus of the curriculum that you wish to deliver. So, how might the programme complement and support what's going on in the schools? So as you can see here, the framework for junior cycle, as we're all aware, is based on 8 principles of junior cycle. You can see them on the left-hand side of the screen there, and you can see that there are 24 statements of learning. Okay, so we're going to have a look at how the programme fits in with those, because that's really important. So if we have a look for a minute back at the previous slide, okay, we see that well-being is one of the principles of junior cycle. And if we break that down a little bit more, the indicators of well-being you can see here on this slide. And part of those indicators are responsibility, connectedness, and resilience. And this programme can really build into these particular areas, because by finishing or participating in this programme, students are learning to take action to protect and promote their well-being. They'll know where their safety is at risk, and they'll know how to make the right choices. Under connectedness, they'll appreciate that their actions have an impact on the well-being of themselves and others. And under resilience, you hope that by giving the students the tools they need to be safe, that they will feel more resilient with the challenges of life. So it fits very nicely into those 3. Okay then, on the statements of learning. If we're looking at the statements of learning, statements 1, 7, 11, 19 and 24 are particularly relevant when we're looking at the fire safety programme, because this programme gives lots of opportunities for students to communicate using a wide range of contexts. It allows them to become active citizens and understand what their rights and responsibilities are, to promote their well-being, and also to understand and appreciate the role of science and technology in society. And they have lots of opportunities to use technology and digital media throughout. The programme is also very suitable for use at senior cycle. So you can see here in front of you that we have the Department of Education Transition Year Guidelines. Now, this program fits in very well with the recommended teaching methods and approaches contained within those guidelines. I've highlighted some of them in red on the left-hand side of your screen there. Also, the themes of health education and guidance are particularly relevant for this. The Careers in Fire unit is very, very relevant for students that are interested in pursuing a career either in fire or the broader fire industry. And it gives them an opportunity to prepare a career investigation. And for senior cycle students, that's one of the core elements of their LCVP portfolio. So really at senior cycle, there are plenty of opportunities, both in transition year and in 5th year and in 6th year, right throughout. Okay then, so what I'm going to do now, having kind of put this a little bit of context on it and showing you how this can be embedded quite easily into the curriculum and that it can be treated very much as a cross-curricular program. I'm going to show you how you can get registered on the learning management system and give you an overview of the structure of the learning management system so you can see what it has to offer. So the website address is www.BFireSafe@school.eu. So what I'm going to do is just follow that link and take you through to the website. And here we are. So we're landing on the home page here. And you can see that there are a number of tabs at the top of your page. So you can learn about the history of the project. You can learn about the partners who have been involved in the project. And there is a gallery of photographs there and what the outputs or the results of this project have been to date. If you want to register, you need to select your language down here at the bottom, English in this case, and that will bring you into the log on screen. Now, if you've logged on before, you just put in your email address and password and you click on log in. If not, you need to register. Now, you can register as a teacher. You can also, your students can register themselves, and fire personnel can register on the learning management system as well. If you're registering for the first time, you click on the teacher's icon here, and that will bring you through to the registration page. And you just need to give your email address and make up a password for yourself, agree a privacy policy, and that essentially will bring you into the resources page, which you're going to see now in a second. And you can see on the right-hand side here a short description of each of the units, which you can scroll down through. So I'm just going to log myself in here. And all working well, yes. I'm through to the page where all the resources are. So there are 10 units in total, as you saw earlier on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to click first of all on the teacher's resource book, because this is a really important resource and it's something that is used in conjunction with all of the resources that are in the individual units. Now, Caroline will talk a little bit more about the teacher's resource book in a few minutes. But it's very useful, invaluable in fact, with so many resources, so many methodologies in there. You can use it online or offline, which is useful because sometimes when we go to our computers, the internet's not working and we're in a blind panic with a class about to start. So if I click on this here, okay, it will take me into an area where I can download it in PDF form and I can use it, in hard copy. So I'll just click here and download, and you can see it coming up on my screen. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to where I was and I'm going to go back to the units and we're just going to look at how you navigate your way around the learning management system. As you can see, the tabs are all there at the top. So if I want to go to unit 1, I can just click on that. Or alternatively, I can scroll down through the page. You can reach your destination by continuing to scroll like this here, essentially. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a closer look at the fire science unit. So I'm going to click on the fire science tab. Now, how is that unit structured? Well, you can see here that the first tab here is a summary of the content of the unit, and this particular unit is split into 3 distinct parts, and you can see that detailed there. If we move over here, part 1, how fire occurs, part 2, extinguishing fire, part 3, the biological and physical effects of fire on the body. You'll also see as you move across to the right-hand side, 2 of the tabs here that have the experiments, some from Underwriters Laboratories and some from the Science Centre in Tartu in Estonia. If I continue to scroll, this is the quiz. I'll be having a look at this feature later on, so students can take a quiz at the end of each unit and measure what their knowledge is, having completed all of the content. And this tab here is media material. That contains all the videos for Unit 2, essentially, okay? So I'm going to scroll back. Now I'm going to go into one of these and have a look at how part 1 is structured. So if I go in here, you'll see the general structure of every part and every unit is more or less the same. So this will be the same as it is for the other units. So we start with the learning intentions, okay? So I'm going to just go like that. And the learning intentions clearly describe what the learners are going to achieve as they're moving through the unit, okay? Now I can move either by clicking on next, or I can use the tabs along the right-hand side of my page here either. So the second thing that you'll see at the beginning of your unit is a test your thoughts exercise. So this is like an anticipation exercise to establish students' knowledge at the beginning of the unit, and it can be repeated at the end to see whether or not there's a progression in knowledge. Okay, I'm just going to use the tabs at the side now to navigate. At the end of every unit, I think I just hit the summary one there you go. You will see a summary of everything that the students have learned. So that's just a nice checklist, and students can evaluate themselves and kind of, talk to themselves and figure out, have I learned that? Do I know that? So it's kind of nice tool for self-evaluation for students at the end of the lesson. And finally, there's a reflection exercise at the end of the lesson, a 3-minute paper we call it, and students are asked to write down the main points discussed, something new they learned, something they do differently, and the skills that they feel that they have developed. So as I said, you move your way along through the tabs on the side to navigate to where you want to go. Now we'll be having a closer look at this particular unit later on. But you can see as I scroll down through it that there are various videos, embedded videos at certain points within the PowerPoints, and these are very useful to reinforce knowledge. I'll just play this one and you can have a quick look and see.
The fire triangle. We need 3 things to have fire, which is temperature, fuel, and oxygen. If we take away one of those things, the fire will go off.
Okay, so that's just a taste of one of the videos. Hopefully later on you'll be looking at some more videos as well, just so that you can get the experience that the students are getting. There's one last thing I want to draw your attention to. So Unit 2 there. It's nice again to have those PowerPoints in downloadable so that you can save them onto your own device and have access to them anytime you want. If you click on Summary of Content there, this is the place where you'll be able to do that. So basically you can use them online the way that we just did there a few minutes ago, or you can go in here and you can take each part and you can download it as a PowerPoint, and you can see that I think coming up on the bottom of my screen there now. Okay, so that brings me to the end. I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. All right then, and put my video back on. All right, everyone, so that brings me to the end of that section. It was just a brief overview of content and an introduction to how you register and use the learning management system. So I hope you found that useful as a starting point, and I'm going to hand you back over to Caroline now. And I think Caroline's going to talk to you a little bit more about the resource book and resources available.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Veronica. And what I'm just going to do is maybe reiterate some of the methodologies and why we chose the methodologies, etc. What Veronica mentioned was the booklet. We have a printed version printed out. I think sometimes as teachers, we just like to look at the booklet and see when it's printed out how we can dip in and dip out of the different units as such, because one of the things that I can see coming up in the chat is what kind of time should be spent on each unit, and that will vary depending on the program, and we can go into that in more detail later on. The actual website there, the Safe Person Concept, that guides us through the learning. It's not that we want you to be using PowerPoints all the time, but when you click into the PowerPoint, it goes through it from step to step, so you can actually follow your class learning as such. We have the website, we have videos, we have games, we've augmented learning, an app that's actually developed. Also, Veronica will be talking the next day about e-twinning. We have research, we have case studies, we have interviews, we have templates, we have plans that you can actually design, BFireSafe, etc. And the next slide, Greg. Very important is we start each of the 10 units with the learning intention. What we want the learner to know, understand, and very important, to be able to apply this. Everything from the safe person concept to be able to apply to yourself, to your surrounding group, or even in your organization, which would be your school. The anticipation exercise is very powerful, where we give 5 statements at the beginning of each unit, and you ask students to test their knowledge, is it true or false? And then you revisit it after studying the unit, and again to see, have they improved the learning? And by viewing that, you can. Again, these are downloadable, they can be shown online, and they're also in our PowerPoints. Next. One of the methodologies I'm going to mention is actually and the methodologies are all dealt with in detail as well in the teacher's resource booklet, is the jigsaw method. And especially for the second unit, which is very much science-based. And what the jigsaw method is, for those who may not be aware, is where you divide information into 3 achievable chunks. And you say to the students, you divide them into groups of 3. You're studying one particular, like heat, somebody else is doing fuel, and number 3 or C is doing oxygen. You then get the students to actually pair up. So 2 heats get together, 2 fuels get together, and 2 oxygens get together as students. And the student's task is, let's learn this so I know it so well, and also how will I teach it to my own group of 3 when I go back. So when the A's go back to their group of 3, the A will tell everything about fuel to B's and C's, which is all about heat and oxygen to them. So it's very powerful, and we've the templates done out for the jigsaw methodology. So I kind of thought said we'd actually mention that. And the next slide, Greg, please. Very important, what we have is we've different types. People call them concept maps or mind maps. And again, these are very powerful. And anyone that knows me knows that in Belmullet here, we run out of Post-its because I'm always buying Post-its and using them to summarize, to think about what we're going to do something. They're a great way to start a class. This is the overview. This is what we're going to do. Or at the end of a class as a summary. We also have some of them with maybe 1 or 2 headings in it, so the students complete it themselves. They can do it by hand. They can use online versions, like we mentioned, Google it, where you can do online mind maps, etc. Again, very powerful. Visual can be so much more powerful than just the black and white script. And on to the next slide. And the reflection sheets, which are really important. What are the main things you learned today? Something new, something you do differently, and what skills did you develop? We have designed this resource that it's applicable to junior cycle or senior cycle, and you can apply the particular skills if it's a junior cycle group or if it's a senior cycle group, depending on what you have. So there are the methodologies. The booklet goes through it all. We have a learning management system, and we have the website where you can either download, as Veronica mentioned, or you can download the templates, or you can just go through the booklet as such. So there are the resources.
So now I'm going to take a closer look at the content of units 1 to 5. That's our aim today. If we could just focus in a little bit more on units 1 to 5. And I'm going to have a look at what the students learn and what they do. Okay, so I am going to show some videos, some of the videos that the students will see, because I think it's important for you to see it as well, to have the student experience to a certain extent as well, okay? So we'll get up and running with that. So all of the units are there, as you can see, 1 to 10, and we're going to concentrate on the first 5 today. So the first unit is called Managing Myself, the Safe Person Concept. And it's suitable for use with students 12 years of age and more. So this module is designed to encourage students to become safe citizens and to be aware of their personal safety and to take responsibility for their actions. So when they complete this module, they'll be able to define what safety is, recognize hazards in their immediate environment, understand what the safe person concept is, and apply that concept to mitigate or reduce risk. Okay, so throughout the unit, there will be a broad range of active learning methodologies used, and I'll include some of the examples of that as we go along. So to define what safety means, students can use something like a My Word template to define and understand the term, and that can be used to define and understand any term. It could be a little exercise that students complete in pairs. When they understand what safety is, they're encouraged to identify safe and unsafe behaviour using a series of images as a stimulus for discussion. So these images can, create great discussion in the classroom, and it's just really reinforcing the nature or the notion of safe and unsafe behaviour. Okay, so once we know what safety is and we can recognise safe and unsafe behaviour, we can lead on then to an examination of what it takes to be a safe person. So to be safe, students or people need to be able to identify hazards, assess the risk of something going wrong, and take responsibility to mitigate that risk. And we also need to understand our rights, and many of these arise from institutional responsibilities which are often enshrined in law. So we have the right to feel safe, and the institutions in which we work have a responsibility under law to ensure that that happens. So they will understand that the safe person concept, it comprises of all these elements. Students can use a placemat activity to identify hazards at their school, and they can extend this then to include their responsibilities and those of the school. So if they start maybe by working in groups, in small groups, to list what the hazards are around the school, they can take that list of hazards, feed it into the document on the right-hand side, and then think about, well, how can I stay safe? What can I do to make myself safer if that hazard exists? And they can also have a look at what responsibilities the school has in that regard. And then they can summarise their knowledge down the bottom and list 5 actions that they can take to keep themselves and others safe in school. So students enjoy that because, they're in school together. It's an environment that they're very, very used to. So it's a kind of a nice place to start when you're talking about the safe person concept. Okay then, so the focus can then shift to an examination of fire hazards in the home. Students can work in pairs. Each pair can identify a fire hazard in the home and then create a question card for their classmates to complete. So they may have a think in pairs about identify a hazard at home, identify what the risks are of something happening and what the consequences of that might be, and then identify how they can mitigate the risks. And they can prepare that in advance. And then they can give the rest of their classmates, they can swap cards and give their classmates just the card with the hazard on it and the rest blank so that they can fill them in. So it's just that they're kind of creating their own learning resources. Case studies are used to stimulate discussion throughout. The case study you see on the right-hand side is in relation to a science project, which resulted in the development of a portable charging station that simultaneously alerts to overheating while providing a fireproof environment. It was a project created by 2 science students from the Ursuline College in Sligo, and they won a safety award at the BT Young Scientist competition. So, case studies are a great starting point for discussion, and they kind of bring everything into the real world. So, use of case studies they are used throughout wherever we can use them, and you'll see that as we move on. Okay then, so when we've reached as far as that, we can kind of extend the whole safe person concept a little bit further. Students can work together now to research tips for staying safe online, and they can be presented digitally, their findings, either in the form of a poster, and they could be shared, those findings, with other students in the school as part of a wellbeing initiative. So there are lots of opportunities for students to take action and become involved. Students will also learn about the shell model in this particular unit, and this model helps us understand what influences how people think, feel and act in an emergency situation. It's a very useful tool for analysing emergency situations or incidents that have happened and for planning interventions that will keep people safe. So it's just kind of making people aware that the way we act in an emergency situation is influenced by a number of factors, and we kind of just have a little look at that in Unit 1 in this unit. Okay, Unit 2, Fire Science. This unit is split into 3 parts. First, students look at how fire occurs, then they look at how fires can be extinguished and what the effects of fire are on the body. So when they've completed the first part, how fire occurs, they will know what fire is, they'll know what elements are necessary for fire to occur, otherwise known as the fire triangle, and you can see it in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. They'll understand what complete and incomplete combustion mean and how fire develops and behaves. So they discover that in order for fire to exist, 3 elements must be present: heat, oxygen, and fuel, and that this is known as the fire triangle. There are a series of tailor-made experiments that have been created to help explain the concepts and to emphasize important information. And you'll see those videos as we move through the PowerPoint here. Okay, there are also opportunities for students to carry out experiments within Unit 2. And you'll see details of one of those experiments here on this slide on the right-hand side. It might be possible and advisable, perhaps, to involve the science department in the delivery of this part of the unit. So you can see some very simple, little experiments that students can do, and they remember so much more when they do something, than when they're listening to the likes of me talking about it. Okay. Another, as Caroline mentioned, methodologies that we can use in this particular unit is the jigsaw methodology. Caroline spoke about that earlier, just getting students to become specialists in a particular element, whether it be fuel, heat, or oxygen, and then encouraging them to share what they have learned with their classmates. So lots of opportunities for the students to be active. Okay, so students also learn what happens if there isn't enough oxygen for full combustion to take place. And the chemical symbols that you see on this slide may already be familiar to senior cycle students. They learn that when there's insufficient oxygen, you have what we call incomplete combustion, and that results in the production of carbon monoxide, which is an odorless, colourless gas, which can very quickly prove fatal. They'll also learn that ventilation is critical in order to mitigate the risk of this happening. And there's more information about carbon monoxide poisoning later on in later units. So what I'm going to do now is, I mentioned there that there were a number of videos throughout and that they kind of reinforce learning. I'm just going to bring you back to the learning management system for a second, and we're going to have a look, hopefully, at one of those videos. So just bear with me for a sec. Okay, now. So I'm here in the learning management system, and I'm going to go into fire science, that's Unit 2, and I'm going to go into Part 1, how fire occurs. Whoops, it's jumping across on me a wee bit there. Back across, there you go. And then I'm going to navigate to the section that deals with combustion. So I'm just kind of making use of the learning management system here as well for the videos, okay? So it kind of gets us all used to navigating our way about. So if we have a look here for a second, you'll see a little video that just kind of reinforces what incomplete combustion is.
So, in first case, in the box, there's lots of propane and lots of oxygen, so the burning is really fast. Well, there's again a lot of propane, but not that much of oxygen, so the burning is much slower and moves from the top to the bottom.
Stop it there before it decides to start again. Okay, so sorry, I'm just escaping here for a sec to get back to where I was. Excuse me just for 1 second. And here we are. Okay then. So now you'll see those videos throughout. Okay, so we'll just move on to the next part of Unit 2, and that's to do with putting out fires. Okay, so in this part of the PowerPoint, or in this part of the program, students will learn how fires can be extinguished, and they'll also learn about the different classes of fire. Okay. So they learn about what we call the extinction triangle, and that describes how fire can be extinguished by either smothering the oxygen, cooling the heat, or starving it of fuel. Now, there are a series of video experiments, and they demonstrate each one of those as well. So maybe a little bit later on, when you get a chance to look at the learning management system, you might get a chance to look at those videos as well. Okay, so let's just go on to having a look at a little bit more information there. So they learn that the fires can be classified as solid, liquid, or gas, depending on the type of fuel involved, and that the type of fire will determine the correct extinguisher to use, something I never knew before I started this program, the number and variety of extinguishers and the fact that different extinguishers are used for different purposes. So as you can see here, there are many types of fire extinguishers. You can see above, each type is color-coded and easily identified, so the students will become familiar with that. Worksheets and online quizzes can be used to test student knowledge, and students could also carry out research to discover the types of fire extinguisher that are available for use in school and where they're located. And that's another useful little exercise that they can do. Okay, so we'll just move on to the next slide for a sec here. Okay then, so if we have a look here, we're on now to the biological effects of fire on the body. So in this unit, part of the unit, the students will learn about the effects of fire on the body and the effects of carbon monoxide poisoning. And you can see a little anticipation exercise here. As Caroline said earlier, they complete that at the beginning, but they also complete it at the end, and and we've reached the end of Unit 2 at this stage, so it's a chance for them just to review what their knowledge is. Okay, so that's the last part of Unit 2. Unit 2 is fire science. Unit 3, let's take a quick look at that now. Unit 3 is fire safety indicators. Now this unit is suitable for use with students aged 15 years plus. Now when students have finished this particular unit, they'll understand the concept of safety and how it is measured. They'll be able to explain the factors that contribute to making us safe, compare the relative safety of one region or country with another. That's an interesting exercise. And they will research methods involved in measuring safety. So if we just have a look here in this little box, it just highlights that fire deaths in Eastern Europe are 5 times higher than Central and Western Europe, and that fire injuries in Eastern Europe are 3 times higher than Central Europe and 4 times higher than Western Europe. So you can gather some interesting facts and statistics by looking at websites like this one here. So by examining these fire statistics, students gain a valuable insight into the relative safety of different countries and regions. So they're encouraged to use this global burden of disease comparison website. And that website will help students to compile and analyse fire-related data for participating countries. So they can basically generate maps and charts like what you see on the right-hand side of the screen. So the map up here shows injuries from fire, heat and hot substances in countries throughout the world during 2019. So then students can have some interesting conversations about possible reasons why the risk is higher or the level of incidence is higher in one country than another. And data can be shared on the twin space for schools that are e-twinning. And there are also cross-curricular links here with mathematics. Now, not only can we gather data from countries worldwide, but we can also gather data for our own country and counties as well. So you can see an example on the screen here. So this example highlights the causes of fire across counties, and the data came from 2019. And data like that can be very useful if you're, say, inviting a member of the fire personnel in to speak to your students. You know, data like that can kind of form the basis for questions, for a conversation during a visit in. So it's just really useful for something like that. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a quick look at Unit 4. So we're just working our way through the units. Now, Unit 4 is case studies. Okay. So this unit shows students some recent examples where fire deaths occurred in Europe and worldwide and outlines some of the lessons learned. And there are 5 case studies in total. Case study 1 is the Attica Greek wildfires. Case study 2 is the California wildfires. Number 3 is the Kozalan escape room fire in Poland. Number 4, the Metro Hotel fire in Dublin. And number 5, the Station Road nightclub fire in the USA. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go out again and show you a short video about the Attica wildfires in Greece. Now, these wildfires happened during 2018 during a European heat wave, and they began in the coastal areas of Attica. 103 people were confirmed dead in Mati, and the fires were the second deadliest wildfire event in the 21st century. So students will watch a series of videos, and I just want to show you one of those so you get a sense of what the students will be viewing and of the destruction caused, I guess, by this wildfire. Okay, so if you just bear with me again for a second. What I'm going to do is go back into the learning management system, and here we go. Now this time I'm looking for case studies because I'm on Unit 4. So I'm going to go up to the top, so just kind of, and here we go. And this is the Attica fire in Greece. Now, instead of going into part 1 there, I'm just going to scroll across to the end. And remember earlier I said that all the material can be accessed in one place, you know, in the media material area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to access this particular piece of video in that area, okay? Okay. Now these videos can be download it again, okay, if needed. All right, so we're just going to have a look at this one.
As the wildfires rage, all local residents can do is watch as the flames creep closer to their homes.
We're scared. Scared that the fire will come down and burn this area, our homes, and us.
What can I say? The whole village is on fire. All our worldly possessions are going up in smoke. It's horrible.
The biggest wildfire broke out in a nature reserve on the island of Evia, an area popular with tourists north of the capital, Athens.
It's terrible. I can't describe it. We came here for holidays, but we'll have to leave if things don't get better.
A state of emergency has been declared, and more than 200 firefighters, along with volunteers, soldiers, planes and helicopters have been deployed. Hundreds of people have been evacuated from the surrounding villages as firefighters desperately battle to contain the flames. Wildfires are common in Greece during the hot summer months. Last year, a fire northeast of Athens killed more than 100 people as they tried to flee.
Okay, so I'm just going to bring us back to where we were for a second. And just to let you know that there are 5 case studies in all, as we said there, okay? So just to speak a little bit about each one for a couple of minutes. The Kozelan escape room fire happened in Poland. 5 girls died in an escape room at a private house in the city of Kozelan. They'd been locked inside the room as part of birthday celebrations. Firefighters found the bodies of the 15-year-old victims after they extinguished a fire next to the locked room. Post-mortem examinations showed they died of carbon monoxide inhalation, and 13 escape rooms were closed as a direct result of this fire. The Kincaid fire burned in Sonoma County, California, in the United States on October the 23rd, 2019. It damaged 77,758 acres before it was fully contained. The Station Road nightclub fire occurred on the evening of February the 20th, 2003 in West Warwick, Rhode Island, United States. It killed 100 people and injured 230 people. That fire was caused by pyrotechnics set off by the tour manager of the evening's headlining band. Those pyrotechnics ignited flammable acoustic foam in the walls and ceilings surrounding the stage, and basically the fire just flew across the roof of the venue. And lastly, the Metro Hotel fire in Dublin. More than 60 Dublin Fire Brigade firefighters tackled that fire and engulfed all floors between the 10th and 13th floors of the building, and over 200 people had to be evacuated. So it's just to give you a little taste of the case studies that the students will be learning much more about as they move through this unit. Now, the case studies incorporate the use of statistics, maps, imagery, and video footage, including eyewitness testimony of the events as they unfolded. Aspects covered include details of the fire, background to the fire, difficulties faced when fighting the fire, potential causes, death, injury, and loss of property, and most importantly, lessons learned. Students are active throughout. They view the case studies, they work together to discuss key learning points, they can carry out further research if they wish, they create fire facts about the numbers injured and the important statistics, and they identify the main learning points and can actually, if groups of students want, they can take one of those case studies each, summarize the information and present it to the class. So they can essentially carry out research and teach each other. So that's a nice opportunity that you can avail of there as well. The next unit is Unit 5. This is the last unit, calling the emergency services. So this unit is suitable for students aged 12 years or over, and it's split into 3 parts. So part 1 is calling the emergency services. So when the students complete this part of the unit, they will have learned how and when to call the emergency service. They will have practiced making an emergency call, and they'll understand the 112 app and the e-call system. Now, a video has been created in conjunction with Leitrim Fire Services to highlight how an emergency call is made and how it's processed. Students can learn how the emergency call is structured and what information they need to give an operator in the emergency 999 centre and in the local fire control centre. So this is a really crucial video, a really important one. So I think it's important maybe that we would have a quick look at this, and if you just bear with me, I'll go back into the learning management system and we'll take a look. Okay, so we go back here, and this time we're in Unit 5. Now again, what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to go right across to media material, okay? And I'm going to pick the video up there. And here we go.
Emergency, which service?
There's been a fire.
Fire, thank you. In which county do you need the fire service?
I'm not sure of the exact address. I'm over at my grandma's house and I can see the neighbor's house is on fire.
Do you need the fire service in County Leitrim?
Yes.
Connection to the fire service in County Leitrim.
Fire service.
ECAS connecting 087 265 2497.
You're through to the fire service. What is your name, caller?
Emma Stratolatis.
Emma, give me a telephone number in case I need to ring you back.
I don't remember the phone number.
That is okay. What is the exact address of the emergency, Emma?
I'm a foreigner, I'm really unsure.
Okay. What is your nearest town or village?
Yes, somewhere near Mohill.
In Mohill in County Leitrim, is that correct?
Yes.
What is the emergency?
There's been a fire.
Okay. Do you know, is there any persons in this house?
I'm not sure.
Can you give me directions for the fire brigade coming from Mohill?
I think it's the Ballinamore Road.
Okay, how far out the Ballinamore Road are you from Mohill?
About 2 kilometers.
Okay, is house on left hand side or right hand side?
Left hand side.
What is the owner's name?
Mary Murray.
Mary Murray. We are arranging help for you now. They will be with you shortly, okay?
When will they be here?
They will be with you very shortly, Emma, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, bye-bye.
So that just gives us some sense of what the students will be viewing, and based on the information contained in that, students then have a good idea how to make an emergency call in the right way and what information they need to have at hand. So when they've watched that video, then what they do is they'll be given a number of scenarios. And first of all, they need to identify which emergency service to call. And then they'll be asked to role play an emergency call with each other. So that was an activity students really enjoyed doing in class. And, it was something that really made them think about, my God, what information do I need to give? It kind of was very, very real for them. So that was just a lovely little exercise. The other thing is we'd like to make students aware of when they go travelling, of what the emergency numbers are. So another exercise that students can do is that they can research the emergency numbers in different countries throughout the world and share their findings with the class. There are plenty of other activities in that unit as well, but that just kind of gives you a little flavour of what students will be doing. The other very important element of this unit is students learning the most efficient way to use their mobile phones to contact the emergency services in the case of an emergency. So there's a video here that I want to show you just to bring us towards the end of this presentation. And there are just some really good life-saving tips in here for making emergency calls. So I'm just going to, again, just go out for a second and give you the opportunity to have a look at this. So I'm going back into my Calling the Emergency Services section. I'm going to go to Media Material at the end again. And this time I'm going to go to part 2, where you have advice on the most efficient and effective way of using your 112 app in the case of an emergency.
Hello, my name's Lyle Brotherton, and I'm the author of the Ultimate Navigation Manual. At some time in our lives, we're all going to have to contact the emergency services. And the most common way nowadays of contacting them is by using a mobile phone. But as we're all aware, mobile phones are subject to signal variations. Sometimes they appear not to have a signal. The network's busy. In this short video, I'm going to show you how you can maximize your chances of getting through to the emergency services using your mobile phone with some clever techniques and information. It's must-know information. The first thing I want you to know is that when you try and contact the police, the fire brigade, ambulance service, or mountain rescue or the Coast Guard, is to dial 112. You can dial 112 anywhere in the European Union. And that's including here, of course, in Scotland, in the United Kingdom, and it will connect you to the emergency services. Now, 112 is a very special number because it's pre-programmed into every SIM card and mobile phone, and it initiates a call in a completely different way to the normal calls that you make. So, for example, if I'm here and it appears that I don't have a signal from my network provider, in my instance that's O2, I can't make a normal call. But if I dial 112, my phone and the network will hunt for other providers. So it'll try T-Mobile, it'll try 3, it'll try Orange. It'll try and connect on any network that's available. In addition to that, if the network appears to be busy, you get that continuous pulse tone that comes through. And sometimes your phone will actually say network busy. It'll prioritize your call, the 112 call, so that it overrides the busy network. In fact, 112 has some other major advantages on the phone itself. By dialing 112, I can override this phone's security system. So let's say I've been involved in some sort of accident, or I've lost my mobile phone, and the person I'm with has a mobile phone, but they're unconscious or they're unable to speak to me, and I don't know their PIN number. I can still get their phone, and I can dial 112, because it bypasses the security system of the phone. In fact, if their phone is a pay-as-you-go phone, and it has no credit left, it'll still dial 112. And in some phones, some of the more modern smartphones nowadays, Galaxy for example from Samsung, even if there isn't a SIM card inside, it'll dial 112 to connect you to the emergency services. Now, not only is 112 available anywhere in the European Union, it's available in America, Australia, Canada, India, Pakistan. In fact, there are 70 countries worldwide where it's available. So remembering 112 means that no matter where you are, within those 70-odd countries, but I mean that's all of the European Union, you're going to get through to the emergency services. Now, the other thing I'd like to talk to you about is that you actually make the call. Let's say I'm out here, I dial 112. First of all, I turn my back to the wind so that when I speak to the operator, they can clearly hear what I'm saying. And I initiate the call, 112, and I wait for 1 minute for that call to connect. If that call doesn't connect, it may be that there's only one cellular mast in this area. And in this instance, that cellular mast is over there. So when I've got the phone here, my head's blocking the signals to my phone. So if on your first attempt you don't get through, turn through 180 degrees and initiate the call again. And again, wait for 1 minute. Now, after those 2 attempts to get through using your mobile phone and dialing 112 to the emergency services, if you still haven't got through, you can then send a text here in the United Kingdom to the emergency services. Now, you have to be pre-registered for these texts. I'm going to show you how to do that. But you simply Put in a text to 112 and send it through, and the emergency services stand quite a good chance of getting that. And there's two reasons. The first is, a text is a little packet of information that just takes a few milliseconds to transmit. So even if you only get a signal intermittently, it'll go through. And the second thing is, if the network is really congested and jammed, text messages go through on a different bandwidth, a different frequency. And there's a lot more capacity in that bandwidth than there is in the mobile phone voice calls. So by sending a text, you've actually got a really good chance of getting through. You send the text, it has the information of who you are, where you are, what the incident is, and how many people are hurt. And you wait for 3 minutes to get a text back from the emergency services. Okay, I said I was going to tell you how to register. It's very easy. You get your mobile phone and you create a text message with the one word register in it only. R-E-G-I-S-T-E-R. And you send that text to 112. Don't worry, it's perfectly safe to do this. When you've sent that text, an automatic reply comes back. And you have to read all of that reply. When you've read all of that reply, you then text back to that message the word yes, Y-E-S. Once you've done that, your mobile phone is then registered so you can send texts to the emergency services. So the two things that we've looked at today are 112 to contact the emergency services, and by being able to send a text to contact the emergency services. 112, worth knowing.
Okay, so just take us back for the very final part of this. So finally, when we're looking at
the 112.
Sorry?
I said that's really important, and it'd be a good exercise getting the students to register as well, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's just a lot of information there that I would never have been aware of, you know, and tips for anybody, you know. So I just, you know, there's a lot of good stuff in that one. There is. So anyway, finally in Unit 5, students will learn about what we call the e-call system. Now this is a new initiative whereby all vehicles will be fitted with devices that will automatically dial 112 in the event of a serious road accident. And it works by sending airbag deployment and impact sensor information as well as GPS coordinates to the local emergency services. So kind of it's just a really new initiative now, and it's going to be something that's going to make us even safer. So it's just, you know, another little added extra that the students will learn about. So I've more or less come to the end of just giving you an overview, a taste of Units 1 to 5. And the last thing I need to do with you before I finish today, I mentioned earlier about the fact that students can create a quiz or can complete a quiz at the end of every unit, and that can be used as a method for assessing student knowledge. I'm just going to very quickly demonstrate on the learning management system how you would work, or how a student would work rather, their way through the quiz, and how they can certify themselves at the end of it. Okay, so I'm just going to X out of here just for a second again, and I'm going to go to the learning management system, which is up here. Yeah, that's it. And I'm just going to demonstrate this to you. And we're going to use Unit 2 again. I'm very fond of Unit 2 today. And I'm going to scroll right across to the end, and we're going to have a look at the quiz feature. So I'm going to pretend I'm a student, and I sincerely hope I get these questions right, but there are no guarantees. So we're going to work our way through this quiz. So if you were a student, you would do exactly what I am about to do now. Okay. So the student is registered on the site as well, okay, as well as the teacher, so they have access to the resources. So here we go, question 1, all right, so you can have a think about these as well. Select all that are required for a fire to occur. So I think it is heat and fuel and oxygen. So you click here to go to the next question. Match the most suitable extinguisher to the type of fire. So for textiles, I think I'll go water. For electrical, I'll go carbon dioxide. And for oil, I'll go foam. So you're just moving these tabs about like jigsaw pieces. Air normally contains 21% oxygen. I'm going to go for yes on that one. Place the following stages in the correct order in the development of fire. So I reckon ignition is probably number 1. Move that up to there. Number 2, possibly growth. Number 3 is full development of the fire. And number 4 is decay. So I'm happy enough, I think, with that. So we'll move to the next one. Synthetic fuels contain 5 to 10 times more stored energy than natural fuels. I always get this one wrong. I'm going to go no for this one. I hope I have it right today. The next one, more than half of all fire-related deaths are caused by smoke inhalation. So I'm going to go yes, I think, for that one. Match the most suitable extinguisher to the class of fire. So A, solids, B, liquids, and C, gases. Okay, I'll go with that. You can use water to deal with an oil-based fire. No. Carbon monoxide is one of the products of incomplete combustion. Yes. Join the most suitable extinguishing method to the appropriate side of the fire triangle. So if you wish to extinguish a fire, how can you do it? Okay then, so you can cool the heat, you can starve it of fuel, and you can smother the oxygen. Now, at this point, if I'm unhappy with any of my questions, I can go on my back arrow here and change my answers. But if I'm happy or I'm willing to give it a go, I'm going to click on check. Now you can see all the answers here. The ones that are highlighted in red are the incorrect answers. So you can just scroll your way down through it and you can see where you've gone wrong if you have gone wrong on any of them. So that's useful for students as well. So thankfully we have passed. Now in order to pass, you need to get 70% or more. And then what you do is you give your name, first name, last name, okay? And then you click on generate. So this is what the student does. And when the student clicks on generate, what it will do is it will generate a certificate. And if I just click to the bottom of my screen here, I can see what the certificate looks like. And that will certify that the student has completed Unit 2 of the BFireSafe at School program and that they've successfully completed it. Now the student can, go back and do that quiz as many times as they like. So it just means that, there's some accountability at the end of the unit. So I just was anxious to show you that today, and that certificate can be very useful for transition year students to include in their portfolios, or for junior cycle students, they could have it as one of their evidence of other areas of learning for their junior cycle profile of achievement. So it would have use both at senior cycle and at junior cycle. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing for a second and come back, hopefully. Yeah, just put my video on. All right, so I hope you found that useful in some way. And if there was any lag on any of those videos, you can watch them yourselves at any stage on the learning management system and you can download them, okay? But it just kind of gives you a little taste of what the students will see and of what the students will do. So I'll hand you back over to Caroline again now. Thank you.
Is there anything in particular that the Irish teachers have concerns about or would like to know? Maybe, Finny, could you unmute if someone, I think Irene.
Hi, yes. Other areas of learning for junior school, would there be separate time given, or would it come out of a certain subject to do this?
Well, that's a really good question. One of our pilot schools, it was actually the science teacher that used it in the science classroom, which was interesting. Other schools are using it as a generic well-being because there's so many, hours allotted to well-being there. Would you like Veronica to say anything there, how you've used it?
That's what I would have suggested as well, with I think it's something like 400 hours now over junior cycle for well-being. So, perhaps during tutor time, perhaps during well-being, depending on what fits in best with your structure. But for junior cycle students, that's possibly, the best place to situate it, because it would meet many of the criteria for that. And you can use small parts of units, as you say, even if you don't want to complete the full program, you can use parts in science class, so there are other options as well. But that's a space where you could probably get a good run at it in well-being as part of your well-being program.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Whereas I suppose in senior cycle, in transition year, you have any amount of time. But some of our teachers who have taken it on board in transition year have decided to bring it into other subjects as they go along. Like it's ideal for modern languages, like it's available in all those languages. And also for LCVP, we have a career investigation in how to go about a career in the fire service. And what was interesting for us as teachers when we linked with our project partners and with Finian, our project coordinator, was the different career backgrounds that they all had, which made it interesting as well, and good for students to know it. And we looked at everything from even the entrepreneur with the fire resources to the engineers to the communicators, etc.
Career investigation in LCA, Caroline.
LCA, yes, absolutely. Yes, suitable for that as well. And if you have a fire safety officer coming into the school for, say, in the transition program, I would be taking them and say, come on down here to the LCAs and to the LCVPs, and they're getting their career investigation done. Now, we know with COVID, there's been, you know, with people coming in, there's limits, etc. But these are available online. We have videos, and you'll be seeing that. We'll go through the next 10 units next week and more the actual technical side of things as well.
Okay.
Caroline, just to come back to Maureen there, by all means contact your local fire officer in the local fire authority, and if you want to arrange a meeting or even an online session like this, where you would invite them to come online and talk about the fire service or any aspect of their work, feel free to contact them, and they will be more than happy to do so. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I think in transition year as well, it offers a really good opportunity to develop those cross-curricular links that are sometimes can be challenging to make. So, you know, those units could literally be split out across a teaching team, you know, and once you coordinate when you're doing it, it can really be developed as a program that spans right across transition year, which is kind of makes it nice as well.
Great.
Any other questions?
Sorry, just wondering, how long a time span would you be talking about, you know, for planning to do it, like?
Now again, Conor, some of the pilot schools, they had any amount of time and transition years. So some of them, what they did was they did it over one term. Then others divided it amongst teachers and gave them an element to do. For well-being, they were looking at, you know, managing myself, and might have given the fire science to the actual science teacher. So it varied so much. And I suppose, Conor, when we designed this, we designed it so that it's so flexible. It can be just tiny parts done of it. You don't have to do it all. You can just do parts or units, one particular unit or 2 units, or even just for well-being, everyone should know how to call the emergency service, even registering your 112 for text messages and stuff like that. So there are so many ways of doing it. And then some schools have given it like an hour a week for the full year in TY. So they're doing fantastic things. And I'm sure this year going forward, they'll probably change it. And we'll be looking at that, how it can be adapted and how it can suit best the different curriculums, excluding transition year, because we feel the transition year, you do have that time. And in some schools last year, what they did was, you know, that time around April when the competitions are over and you're left with what am I going to do with the students? A lot of teachers took it on then, and they actually found it was great to have something new and different because they had finished taking part maybe in the student enterprise program or junior achievement or career support skills competition or whatever, you know, and that was an interesting one, and they were able, you know, do it to actually suit their students as such. And also all the different tasks you don't have to do if you don't want to. We've kept to a few methodologies, because you know the way they say it's really important when you're teaching your students that you have the same type of methodologies for the units so that they get used to it. They know they're going to have to anticipate. They know they're going to have to reflect. And that becomes really standardized then for the student and makes it easier rather than putting in lots of different varieties. Now we have a lot of technology and games and apps that we will be showcasing next week. But I think the first week here, you should really have got an insight into those first 5 units and how you can chip and chop and change. Veronica, is there anything you'd like to add in there?
Yeah, well, I just see one of the questions is from Anne here, just is the registration on the LMS the same for students as it is for teachers? And it's the same process, okay? Because for them to gain access to the resources and complete their quiz, they need to log on to the LMS. And then there's just one, Caroline, here. Is there a teacher booklet with extra activities and answers for quizzes?
Okay, and that's typical as such. We actually have a zip drive with every possible thing, with the answers to the anticipation exercises, because I hate if you go into a classroom and you're trying, I think only teachers realize this, you're trying to control, you're trying to do so much, and you can't even think, is that oxygen heat or whatever. So I love everything to be done for you. So we actually have the answers done. And it's interesting you say that, because in our pilot scheme, that came up from one of the teachers. She said, I didn't use the anticipation exercise because I wasn't too sure of the answers. So we thought that was an interesting one. So yes, we have a zip drive we'll share with you, and we will be given an email at the end of this workshop that you can contact, and we'll have that shared zip drive. The answers are in it. It'll be all going up in our learning management system as well. And all the units are divided, what pages of the booklet you use, what templates, blank templates for the mind map, ones with all the information filled in, ones with some deleted, so that the activities can be as narrow and as broad as you actually want. Any other questions? Actually, and we might as well have a bit of a laugh. We're so serious at times. I always remember watching The Simpsons, and you know, when the teacher lost the answer to the books, there was pandemonium in the school. They thought the school would have to close down. And it reminded me of teaching accounting. You know, you had to have your answers correct or anything. And if you were saying, where are they? But when I haven't got them, when I need them, etc. there. So yeah, we've tried to make it as a huge amount of work has gone into this. And I suppose we were so lucky to have Finian, our project coordinator, who made sure to make links, whether it was with Trinity or laboratories or the fire service, our teachers, our partners, our colleagues internationally. This has been tried in schools as well, you know, across Europe, and they're loving it, and they're loving it as a language resource, which we never thought of it as when we started this process. Okay, there's Diane's trying, or Irene's trying to get in. No, you're in. Okay.
Caroline, there's another question there in the chat.
Okay. Do teachers get a cert for attending this course? And yes, we will have certs available for teachers, and you can use this as part of your CPD day as well. You have 2 hours that will be used, and that's why we have linked here with the education centres as well. We can actually email everybody. That would be the handiest, wouldn't it?
It would.
Yeah, I think so.
Sorry, can I ask a quick question there? It was me who put forward that question there about the cert. No, it wasn't about the cert for today. I kind of guessed we have to get one for principals for today. No, do we need a cert to actually teach this course, the actual BFireSafe course? I mean, in terms of like, you know, that we have, I won't say a qualification, we'll obviously far from have like, you know, the main qualification, but, you know, just that we have something. If, for example, like I'm not a TY coordinator, like if I was to say to my TY coordinator, can I do a module next year on BFireSafe, etc., just that she'd know, oh, I've done a little bit of work on this, and you know what I mean, like I have a little bit, a tiny qualification. That's all I meant. Sorry.
Absolutely, because even what we're doing today and the system, there's learning in it. And yes, what we would say, you would be qualified to teach this project as such. Finian, would you want to come in there? We can organise that, can't we? That we could have certs that, you know, you're able to teach this. And as you say, Suzanne, it'd be great to say to your coordinator, and feel free for the next session next Wednesday to invite your coordinator if they wanted to come along as well, you know?
Yeah, certainly after attending today and next week, we can certainly provide a cert to say that it is a qualification of sorts for having attended these sessions that you're able to teach this resource in school. We'd be happy to do that.
Can I actually ask one more quick question? I'm really sorry, my apologies there. I was sitting very intently for the whole thing listening, so I keep all the questions till the end. Last quick question there, just in terms of my vice principal was just saying, when I was attending, say today, just like, will we be covering anything on, and I know I fully appreciate it's not aimed at teachers in that respect, that it's done obviously for students, but will we be covering anything about, say, school safety in terms of teachers? I mean, like I don't know, I think she's kind of looking for me to kind of do some kind of PowerPoint to be able to maybe like show to teachers or something like that, in terms of when we have our next meeting, like staff meeting on Zoom or something like that, just in terms of what is, we say, etiquette practice or whatever on a teacher's point of view from staff.
Are you talking from a fire safety perspective?
Yeah, I think, well, I actually don't know. I'm only guessing that's what she's kind of hoping for. I kind of was half afraid to ask too many questions.
We actually haven't thought of that, but that's actually a really good idea, that you could go back to your staff room and present on what this is about. So I think that's something, Finian, that we could put together.
Yeah, I was going to say that in next week's session, we will go through how to carry out an emergency evacuation of school, and to look at the points for managing safety in school as well. That will also be covered, if that helps. So yeah, it's something we can look at. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's what she's looking
that
for.
she could present to her staff, you know, a PowerPoint, something short saying what it is. Yeah, that's what I think. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. No, as I said, I was kind of half afraid to ask too many questions.
Yeah. No,
I didn't want to go to work. No, but I didn't want to ask the VP too many questions because I didn't want loads of work. But yeah, something like that. Just something kind of, we'll say 10 minutes worth of, you know, something simple and stuff that you can get to maybe kind of quick in terms of you're dealing with, you know, teachers and adults and this, that, and the other. So you don't need like loads of stuff, but just small basics and maybe a video or something like that we can watch. It's done, tick on the box kind of thing.
And even a video thing, we could have a pre-recorded thing. It's just that when teachers go to CPD, they sometimes come back and they're asked by management to present their learning. Staff. So it's not lost amongst just one teacher. So that's another thing that we need to do.
Sorry.
Thank you so much.
No, I don't mean to add to your workload. Sorry, that wasn't the aim of the game. So I hope that's okay, Finian. Thank you. It'd just be really helpful. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Not at all. We're going to be finishing up here, and we're going to be moving into the main room again. So I think we're going to be done automatically.
I think Sean had just one question.
Oh, sorry.
Can you hear me? I think Sean just had one question in the chat. Do students have to have a device on them while doing the course? No, they don't need to have a device on them because you will have all of the resources. The only time really when they need to log into the learning management system is in order to complete the quiz at the end of the unit. So, you know, if they don't have individual devices, maybe they could go into the computer room for just that aspect of it. So I hope that answers that question. Okay.
Okay.
Caroline, I was just going to add to on the previous question around bringing something back to the schools as well. I mean, I think some of the stuff that's covered in the Minding Myself unit could be very useful there, but perhaps between Finny and yourself and Veronica, you might be able to package some content that would be available, the teachers could use then to take back in.
That would be brilliant, Ross, because Ross was the brains behind the shell model for us, which we have adapted and used. We're going to have to leave the room now. Okay, so if you click on leave break room, and we're going back into the main room. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Caroline. Thank you.
Thanks a million. Okay.
And thanks, Finian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.